Welcome to the 29th Annual Massachusetts Multicultural Film Festival, presented by the Film Studies program at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. I'm Daniel Pope, the director of the festival, along with Sean Shimpak. Nefeli Forni Zervoudaki is our assistant curator. Laura Mago curates the 2022 MMFF with the theme of Indigeneities, a season of global contemporary Indigenous film and media art. As both Laura Mago and Barry Spence are unable to join our event tonight due to illness, I'm delighted that Nefeli Forni is here for the introduction and to help with moderating the Q&A with me tonight.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. As a note to our audiences tonight and to everyone here, we're speaking with filmmaker Zacharias Kunuk, and he is currently in Igloolik, and there can be a time lag between when we speak, when he hears what we're saying, and when he responds due to technology. So we want to thank you for your patience.
It is our pleasure and honor to introduce Zacharias Kunuk, a filmmaker, sculptor, visual artist who lives in Igloolik, Nunavut, in the northernmost region of Canada. Kunuk has redefined filmmaking in Canada and has been at the forefront of innovative uses of video and broadcast technology in the north. He's perhaps best known for his debut feature film, Atanarjuat, The Fast Runner, from 2001. The first Canadian feature film produced entirely in Inuktitut. Nefeli, you want to take the next one?
Yes. I want to say that Atanarjuat, I apologize for that, The Fast Runner won 6 Genie Awards and was ranked #1 Canadian film of all time in 2015's poll conducted by the Toronto Film Festival. The film was also awarded with the Cannes Caméra d'Or of the Cannes Film Festival in 2001. And the actor in the lead role of Atanarjuat, Natar Ungalak, collaborated with Maliglutit in The Searchers alongside with Zach Kunuk. He is the co-founder of Isuma Productions, the first independent Inuit-led film production company in Canada.
So Maliglutit, or Searchers, is set at the turn of the century, the 20th century, in 1913. And it was envisioned as a film in the genre of the Western, made, in the words of Kunuk, entirely in the Inuit way. So we'll want to think about that as we have our conversation tonight. And the inspiration for the film is rooted in the history of the kidnapping of women who were then made the wives of the captors, which the filmmaker Kunuk has said is a practice as old as Inuit culture itself, albeit rare today. He has worked a great deal in documentary and in a filmmaking style that really blurs the line between documentary and narrative film. Like his very recent film, One Day in the Life of Noah Piagatuk, from 2019. And that's set in 1961, when the Canadian government pressured the Inuit to give up their nomadic way of life to be resettled in the prefab village of Igloolik. And that film is in the spirit of Kunuk's some of Kunuk's earliest work, the 1995 television series Our Land. And it's interesting, the name of the region, Nunavut, is from the Inuktitut word for our land. And that's a 13-part dramatic series on the people and the place and the story of how the Inuit in Igloolik, or in this region of the Canadian Arctic, lived on the land in the 1940s. So I hope that you've had a chance to see this film and enjoy this stunning film. If you've not had a chance to watch it yet, I just want to let you know that it will be available on our website tonight after this conversation. You can access it there on our website. So Zach, we are thankful for your presence here with us tonight. It really is an honor to have such an important filmmaker with us to discuss your film here in the 29th season of the MMFF. So why don't we start the conversation? One of the things that struck me right away was that this film, Searchers, feels a lot like a culmination of some of your previous work. I'm thinking of course, Atanarjuat, The Fast Runner. And I want to know if you think about this film in that way, and how this film is informed by your previous work.
I wanted to make this Maliglutit Searchers based on the movies that I've seen when I first came to Igloolik in 1966 off the land to be school, so my parents could understand English and probably I could translate for them. But around 1967, I started seeing 16 millimeter films for the first time. And at that time, I was too young to get to adult movies. Where you try to sneak in or peek through a hole to see the movie. And when we were in, and at that time we used to see cowboys in Indian movies, John Wayne out there with his cavalry and living in the fort and sending out scouts, and they don't come back, and we go look out for them with John Wayne, our hero, and we find them all dead with bow and arrows stuck on the soldiers. So that was the kind of movie I used to enjoy. It's a lot like Inuit storytelling, revenging stories. But Maliglutit, I wanted to base it on a family out there in the middle of nowhere, where the father and son are out hunting, and they're these bad guys who have been outcast from their camp, and and I tried to make this film. They have now 30 rifles, but before gun was introduced to Inuit, it used to be the muskets, where they call them tundra, only rifle in Inuk. But after that, the John Wayne movies had 30, so I had that gun. But in those days, Inuit didn't have too much ammunition. And this story, Maliglutit, the hunter, has only 3 bullets. And he's terrible hunting. And he tried to shoot 2 caribou with 1 bullet. That's what they always tried to do. So after that, he only had 2 bullets left. And then there's these bad guys that he has to hunt down. So this story is based. When I was still out there on the land, one time when we used to live in camps before we came to these refugee communities, we used to have camps, and the next camp has about 20 people, and our camp have about maybe 15 people. They used to visit. First time I noticed somebody died, the husband died, and a few days later a man comes into our community to claim this new widow. And as a kid, I didn't really know what's going on, but the next day, somebody's shouting out the window, and we jump into our caribou jumpsuits as kids. And we walk out and we see this man in total carbo outfit with his whip, and his sled is loaded, and this woman is sitting there, his new wife, crying, but she's all tied up to the sled. So I saw that when I was a child, and I wanted to uh, show that in this film. The women got kidnapped and they're all tied up all the time to the sled as they're running after them. So I try to show these, try to show this. The husband only has 2 bullets to hunt these guys down. So, and I want to base it on John Wayne, the film I used to see, something like that.
Right. Yeah. It is it has a feel of a Western, right? I mean, there's the vast landscapes that you need to know how to survive in and how to navigate. And there is clearly the title seems to be an echo of the John Ford film, The Searchers, which is a John Wayne leading role in that film as well. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how the other ways that maybe the Western speaks to you in this film, and how this film is made as a Western in the Inuit way, as you say.
Yeah, I saw the John Wayne film, Searchers, but I really noticed that all the changing of his shirt would change and change and change, and his hat would be black and sometimes it would be white. I really noticed this because as filmmakers we try to we don't try to do that. We don't try to, even at the end of the day, we would take shots of who's wearing this and what prop is there. And so, because when we start again tomorrow, we want everything in the same place. But when I watch John Wayne Searchers, it was not like that, as if they didn't care about continuity. So that's what I really noticed. But I wanted to use some shots like to the igloo door, shooting the 2 women outside standing. It's something I've seen in the Western movie. Yeah, just try to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very impacted by what you shared, by that scene that you witnessed as a child, because I feel that your film is a lot about violence, and just the way that violence can permeate or manifest itself within that environment and community. And what you described is so powerful, insofar as you actually have reenacted a scene that you witnessed as a child. And in a way, because that scene, if I'm not mistaken, is, is it, my question would be, what is the historical relevance of 1913? What and what echoes to the present do you feel can be found in your story currently?
With Searchers, I wanted to make a Inuit action film where they're tracking down these bad guys, and the bad guys know that they're being followed, and they're rushing around all the time, and finally they're scoping at each other. I mean, at the end, I want to build this tension going on, just like when I was watching these Western movies. When probably, let's see, Arizona, where there's these beautiful mountains, where you hear a gunshot, and then there's a like a light metal or a mirror or something flickering. And I tried to show that in Maliglutit, where he's scoping me, and I wanted to show that. So it's like building the tension, climaxing the end. Yeah, I tried to do this, but in the call, I mean, it's cold, but it was really cold when the attack happened in the igloo, when the bad guys torn through the igloo, come in, and they're in their outside coats, and it was really cold, but lucky the way we shot it. We had a cabin just very close, so we could rush everybody into the warm cabin. So we do tricks like this when we're filming. Yeah, I try to show this. Most of the times, dog teams don't cope. Dogs never really cope because they're just working dogs. They're not pet dogs, so we just work with them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that just to follow up on that point, that an action film, it very much works, I think, as an action film. And that, you know, I love the moment where he says, I'm going to go see if there's, you know, he sends a scout back, right? He leaves somebody to see if anybody's following. And that moment where he's got his telescope out, and he says, you could see the fear strike him when he says he's looking right at me, right? That's very effective. There's also something about it. You know, action films can often be stylized as you know, as a kind of fantasy, which is a nice way, or at least it's strategically a way a filmmaker can buffer the audience from some of the realism of what might happen in an action movie and the real violence. And I think Maliglutit does not shy away from that as much. As an action film, it's also a film deeply rooted in a kind of principle of realism. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit to that, the realism, the pacing very much places us there with your characters, and the kinds of actions we see play out. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Because we're a hunting culture. We hunt animals. We never hunt people. We're hunting each other with a rifle. I mean, we can't imagine that. We can't imagine that because we always hunt caribou, polar bears, seals, and walrus, butcher them. But to hunt a human is just a film. It's filmmaking, running, speeding up the dogs. Yeah. We try to show that.
And there's an interesting mirroring where Kwanana is with his son hunting caribou, and the thing he says while he's looking through the telescope, I see, there they are, I see them, right? That is almost verbatim what he says when he sees the people who, the bad guys, as you say, the abductors. So there's an interesting kind of echo of that scene, or that hunting scene as prefiguring the chase. Right.
And also in our culture, we were told by our parents never to pretend to die or never pretend to cry. But when you're filming, you just do all these. You pretend to die and then you pretend to cry. We don't listen. We don't listen to our parents when we're filming.
Why is it that you're told not to pretend to cry or die?
I don't know. My parents always told us, don't pretend to die and don't pretend to cry. But when we're filmmakers, these are the things we have to do. We just do them. In churches, at the end, we see these two guys fighting. We didn't want to. I mean, we tried close-up shots, but it was more interesting. We're far away. We're looking at this. Then they're yelling at each other, and they're really fighting, and it looked more real. So I had it far, and they're still fighting. And I heard about Inuit stories of how they used to fight for a woman, especially in our culture, in the Inuit culture in those days. There were so few of us up here. They used to make arranged marriages. If arranged marriages didn't quite work as planned, but that promise is always a promise, and the promise comes. In one of the stories I heard, this woman who was promised to this man married another man, and they had 2 children living together, but the rightful husband came. There was a battle, and the winner took the woman. It's like you see these all English movies where when the muskets and the pistols started to come, there's a duel. You flap there, partners with their gloves, and then they have to shoot at each other. It's just the same thing.
I don't want to give any spoilers about the film for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but there's something really that you definitely depart a little bit from being a fight among men only. There's fighting. There's a kind of, the women aren't necessarily just kidnapped and held and then transferred back. There's something much more going on with their role. They're very active agents in your film, which I think is really satisfying to see in a story like this.
I have a question about the religious and spiritual rights that we see in the film, and I shouldn't say obviously, but historically those have been placated and even denied by colonialism and by Christianity. So what is the current relationship of Inuit people or people from Inuit heritage with those spiritual and religious rights that we see in the film, or others that pertain to the Inuit communities?
Yeah, we're slowly getting our tradition back. I remember when I was growing up, being brought up from the Anglican family. My parents were so Anglican, they wouldn't even sing traditional songs. I've never seen anybody dancing on with the drum dance because they was forbidden. When I was a young man, I came to Maliglutit in 1966 and started to go to church, and the Anglican ministers are banning storytelling and singing. But when our elder said, our tradition, not none of it is all bad. There's a lot of good in it. So we wanted to show the good side of our culture, because when Christianity came, we were like Igloolik was the last community. The Anglicans were coming through Bafanalia, and the Catholics were coming through Kuwait and up. And they meet here. And when we were children, we threw rocks at each other, at our cousins who were Catholic, and because we're on the Anglican side, we draw the line like they did in Ireland. We draw the line, and this is Anglican, that's Catholic. But on a Sunday, we kept Anglicans, we kept our Sunday so holy. We couldn't play outside as kids. But I look out through the window, my cousins are playing baseball, they're Catholics. So that's
So it's the play. Zacharias, it's the play. It's the entertainment. That's what it's all about. That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing.
But then, when our elders started sharing, I remember there was an elders conference when this young man asked, because our drum is Kilaut and Kilak is heaven. And this young man asked, why does Kilak, heaven, and Kilaut, the drum, have similar names? And this elder said, in all the oldest days, when Inuit used to be shaman, there when shaman was the religion, there they had helping spirits. Each, like if I had 5 spirits, they would be taking turns on my body. Even when I'm sleeping, they would take turns. But these spirits and other spirits of other shamans, when they compete, this old man said, the sun, they would race towards the sun, these spirits, to see who can get close to the sun. The good ones pass the sun, not so good one would return. But you and me, we got to school. We know the sun is 93 million miles away. I was so fascinated to hear this story. I'm right in the meeting. And this old man said, when they're coming home, Kilaut is the symbol of the earth. I was so fascinated because it's round. When they're coming home from the heaven, they would see the earth round. Probably. I was so fascinated to find that out.
That is fascinating that they
because my culture fascinates me, because when I lay down to sleep in an igloo, it's sparrow in blocks. I'm thinking, whoever figured this out must have been genius, and it just fascinates me. To drive dogs, to battle a cat, they had to figure it out. I mean, that fascinates me. That's why I keep making films.
Yeah, clearly there's a lot of knowledge at work in the film, and it's one of the things I love about this film is that you're in, they live on the ice. That this is while they remain a nomadic people back in this time that the film is set, and so we get to see just how, even though the ice itself is so vast and almost uncompromising, the life that they lead there is very rich, and I think storytelling is a part of it. There's a moment in the film where the daughter asks us, I think, a story from the grandmother. Is that right?
Yeah.
And today, if a daughter would probably go on her phone and start looking up videos, but there's something about that the importance of the people, everybody in your family and in your community, that is underscored there in the film, and the way they share food, and and prepare tea and such. So it was just beautiful to see. We actually we can move to the questions from the audience, and one of the questions has to do with community, and whether you would be okay to talk a bit about your filmmaking process and the way you involve community members in the production of your films.
Inuk is a small community, about 2,000 people. When we have a production going on, and I like to make films about the old way. Some people like to make films about today, but I like to make the old way. To make the old way, you have to have the elders' knowledge to stitch costumes, because every person is measured by hand and strings, and saw these caribou skins and perfect fit. And I put elders with apprentices. They put them to work making costumes. We hire hunters to make props. We buy dog harnesses. We buy webs for the film. We basically put the whole community to work. And I mean, to show our culture, it's a lovely thing to do.
The costume design is stunning. I mean, it's stunning. One of the scenes that mesmerized me was when we have I think I'm spoiling things for our audiences, but the process of removing the clothing, when he removes, the top, and then yes, I just loved that scene so much, and their costumes, and the part when she makes it humid, so it says, "I'll show you how to sew," and basically you're saying something absolutely wonderful, which is that the movie itself, the process of filmmaking, entailed the passing of knowledge to other members of that community, right? These apprentices learned a craft for your film. That is absolutely wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think it was, we definitely see it in your film. The result was there.
There's an oil lamp that they use to heat up the tea and to cook on, and there's the dog harness. The grandfather, who is a shaman, makes a harness for the dogs, and then preparing to go to bed. I also agree that was mesmerizing, the way that each article of clothing is positioned in just the right way in the bed to keep it warm, I guess, and to
I would like to go to another question from the audience. It's a twofold question. I'm very curious to know what you're going to answer. What is your favorite part of filmmaking? And the second part of the same question is, were there any notable problems during production? Maybe we could use challenge instead of problem.
When I'm directing, I'm looking at my frame and I'm trying to see who is in the back who's going to try to screw up my screen. And one time, because actors are acting, some actors forget their lines, and some actors write them in their hand, and some of them have notes. When I was making the film, The Fast Runner, and we're just doing this fantastic scene where they're head punching, it looks so real with camera angles. And this old man who was going to say, I'm the leader of this camp, pull out his notes. And he read it. It's in the screen. I never saw it because I was so concentrating on this head punching. Um, and I have to live with this for the rest of my life. So that's what filmmaking is. So you will make mistakes and you have to live with them and hope that nobody sees them. But that's how it is.
And how about the challenges during the production of Searchers?
It was fun. When it's fun, when the story is fun, it's fun to do. We go to a lot of locations because in Searchers we need a flatland, we need some hills at the end. We go to other areas, and we have a crew. They have to eat, they have to sleep, and we're out there. So we got skidoos, and some skidoos are dragging cabins to where we sleep, and so we do a lot of work behind the scenes. And it's just what I saw when I came in 1966 when I saw the movie Searchers, and I thought, oh man, 2 hours and just entertain myself, and I didn't even realize there was a camera and so many people that worked behind the camera. I felt like it just God sent.
Mm.
And they right after the sunset. So yeah, but the way we film is a lot of fun too because we're talking to each other all the time. Soundman, cameraman, actors are talking to you. What if we do it this way? Yeah, preparing a lot of rehearsals. Uh, yeah, it's fun, a lot of fun when
Imagine.
you yeah. But in our culture, we don't hit elders. We're not allowed to hit elders. Um, but in the Fast Runner, there's a scene where this young man forced this old man down to the ground with his harpoon, and and he was so afraid to do it. And I told him, "How many takes are we going to take? Take one, take two, take three, take four, take five. We're going to go on until you do it right." So he had to pin this old man down to the ground, even though it's not allowed. So these things happen in just filmmaking.
Mm. Yeah, I imagine the dogs could cause some chaos on the set as well. Did you ever, or also just the cold? You were saying it was really cold, and you can tell that it's really cold. There's so much frost on the beards and on the clothing,
Yeah.
And that's got to wreak havoc on your equipment. And did you have to have a particular strategy for those things?
Yes, I remember when we used to shoot in tapes.
Mm.
Problem. But when memory cards came, uh, and all of a sudden these cameras have no moving parts. It's just all digital, and we just cover them with sheepskins. Camera has a coat of sheepskin. Our sound equipment has sheepskin coats. That's how we keep our batteries. Everybody's carrying warm batteries in their pockets. That's how we work. Even actors carry batteries in their pocket to keep them warm.
A
Great.
part of me feels like asking something. Daniel, do you want to ask the next question? Maybe first.
Let's see. We should. Let's see. Oh, someone is curious just about the film scene there in Igloolik and in the Baffin region. What is the film culture? What is the video culture there? What is the scene like?
I don't quite understand.
I guess the question
Can
is
we-
about, what do people do for film? How, what is there a culture of film? What kinds of movies do people go for?
Here we have no theater. We only watch TV. Um, we we're teaching younger generation. We have students in the summertime, so we keep everybody up to date because technology is always changing, and we have to keep up to it. So we're always training ourselves too. Can I have a break? 1 minute break?
Oh,
Yes,
you
of
need
course.
just for a second?
I have to go watch them. Sorry.
Oh yes, one moment. We'll take a little break, and we're gonna play the trailer for the film, and then we'll come back and talk some more with Zacharias Kunuk.
Wonderful.
Tinukkanartigo ne nukkaktivini yuguddi Naridadigdi Pushi Teka kurunga Lana teka
That's beautiful. I love that we had the opportunity to show the trailer, because that's such a beautiful scene, and we've already talked about a lot of connections to that scene. So we have just minutes left for this. So we have a few questions, and then we can maybe have some final thoughts. Anything that we haven't asked that you want to talk about, but. One of the questions we had to do with how this film and maybe others is received in Naglulik. How do people respond to your films?
Nobody really respond to me. Nothing really, no bad thing ever. They just love it. They just love it. I remember when I made The Fast Runner, and I showed it first here in the biggest building I could find, was a school gymnasium, and I invited everybody and showed the film, and because one mistake I made, they'll know. I mean, they'll just say we don't do it this way. We don't do it. We do it this way, and everybody knows that. So, but when people start to laugh and clap, I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, yeah. I put myself on the test, and people, if the committee likes it, we release it to the outside world. So that's how we work.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's good. That's good to know, actually. Nefeli, do you have another last questions before we go into?
Yes. Right before we started the event, you were sharing with us some things about climate change, and I wanted to ask you if you wanted to share how climate change has been and is currently affecting your community.
Yeah, as a filmmaker, I go into different subjects a lot, and one subject I did was I wanted to do climate change, because all the scientists that were coming up north were with their thermometers testing how cold it is and how strong the wind is, and taking notes on and about their results, but they don't talk to the people. And I wanted the people to talk, people who have always lived here in the Arctic. And once I started talking to them, and one old man was saying, I'm always pondering, because in all my life I watched the sun come up and sunset. And he said he was noticing the sunset is going further. And I go to another community and they're talking the same thing. When I went to the mountainous community, and this old man was telling me that, the sun used to set before that mountain. Now it passes that mountain. What's going on? Is our world tilted? When they started asking that, I remember when we were filming Inuit Knowledge and Climate Change, we were even on national CBC National about this and what people are thinking. Is our world tilted? Everybody thought we were crazy. But now they know the world has tilted a bit. Everything is changing. Elders were telling me they used to navigate using the stars and wind, snow, what they call tongue drifts, what the snow carves, the north wind carves. They would use these to navigate and travel in angles to get to where they're going. But now the winds are changing too. It's not north wind used to be the most dominant wind. Now it's the east wind that's more dominant nowadays. Um, so people were talking to me like that. And higher up in the Arctic, where we lose the sun, because we lose the sun every year. And I remember I went up to the very high Arctic, Resolute Bay, where I was interviewing elders, and they were telling me when they were relocated from northern Quebec to the high Arctic in 1953, in the wintertime, they would have 1 hour day glow where they could go and hunt seals. And they were telling me today they have 2 hours. Well, that's a big change. 2 hours of daylight from 1953, when it used to be just 1 hour day glow. Now it's 2 hours. That's a big change.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing all of this, Zacharias.
Yeah, I wonder if there's the ice loss that's happening there.
Yeah, and I remember scientists were so worried about the polar bear. The polar bear will not have the ice to stand on. Well, Inuit are not worried because they know in the summertime they do better hunting. They get fat in the summertime. They swim with their prey. Usually seals are sleeping in the water and polar bears just swim up to them. Yeah, polar bears can dive and be on land. They're wonderful creatures.
One last question, I think, before we go into a kind of closing thoughts. And it's probably a question that you hear a lot is a project you're working on right now, and future projects that you are excited to or you're envisioning for yourself.
I just finished a short film a few years ago, last year. Shaman's Apprentice. It's a stop motion animation, something that I wanted to try because when I'm talking about when I have a scene about the shaman going to the underworld to get an answer because there's a sick man. Are we lost?
No, we're here.
No, we're here. We are here. Can you hear us?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, yeah. Future projects. We're always doing projects. Writing story of how Inuit used to have arranged marriages. Some of the story I've heard about this, I want to title The Wrong Husband, and start out with 2 pregnant women making arrangements. Let's say your child is a girl and my child is a boy. We'll arrange them so they're talking. And so I mean, it's an Inuit culture. When you're growing up, you're starting to walk. They let you know your future wife, and you're growing up. You're like 12 years old. You're getting shy because of girls. Your future wife, and then your future husband. I mean, these things. I mean, I'm writing a story about that. It's about a tragic story of the girl's father dies, and then mother marries again. She's taken off to the other camp, and something like that. I want to make that. It's sort of like the Path Runner. I like this. uh, like searches when you're just playing with your own culture and you're not mixing with other cultures, and there's you're just solving problems. Let's see who's gonna win at the end. That type of I like to do those. And in churches, they have a spirit guide that I try to show about the loons, because we don't have loons up here in the winter time, but they have this beautiful sound, calling sounds, and I try to use that, but yeah, more documents, yeah.
That's great. I already want to see all of those. I'm really excited about the stop action animation. That sounds really really interesting. And the stories that I mean, it is a continuation of your work that you're doing. I think it's really valuable. I know that your time is incredibly valuable. We're really thankful to you for spending this time with us. We know how incredibly busy you are. And we just want to thank you again for joining us to talk about Maliglutit, the Searchers, tonight for the festival.
Thank you very much, Zacharias. It was a pleasure to be in conversation with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Indeed, yes. And many thanks to you, Nefeli, Forni, Zervoudaki, for helping lead this discussion and introduce the event. Thanks also to our fabulous team of interns who will be included in the credits at the end of the trailer that plays at the end of our broadcast tonight. Thanks also to our audience. Again, note that the Searchers will be available on demand via our website tonight. So if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go watch it. Or watch it again if you've seen it once. It's worth seeing again. It's a pleasure also to acknowledge and to thank our sponsors who make this festival possible. At UMass Amherst, we have the College of Humanities and Fine Arts, the UMass Arts Council, the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, and thanks to the 5 College Film and Media Council, and to the NAIS at the 5 College NAIS and the grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Please see our website for more information about the festival and upcoming events. The MMFF is presented by the Film Studies program at UMass Amherst. Barbara Zecki, Film Studies Director. I'm Daniel Pope, Director of the festival, together with Sean Chimpak. Thank you.